After bankruptcy protection, Mississippi TV station WXXV-TV paid its vendors before their invoices were due, despite its recent history of unpaid bills. WXXV launched on the Mississippi Gulf Coast in February 1987. Within months, it faced financial trouble and fell several months behind on loan repayments. AM South planned a public auction for September 1988. Days before it, Gulf Coast Television filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection. A settlement transferred WXXV to AM South, whose management inherited its reputation for unpaid bills. Management paid syndicators, the companies supplying programs, and other vendors before invoices were due. That made payment timing an operating tool for a station trying to restore commercial relationships. A year later, AM South put the station on the market. Prime Cities acquired it and Morris purchased it in 1997 for $17.5 million. The record ties early payments to rebuilding vendor trust, not solely to later sales. The station's ownership changed again. Peruvian anchovetas made Peru the world's largest fishmeal and fish oil producer, until overfishing and the 1972 El Niño event helped collapse the industry. After World War II, commercial fishing expanded rapidly. Fishmeal became the economic engine of Peru's coastal industry. By the 1960s, Peru had the world's largest single-species fishery. The model concentrated on one species. Fleets caught anchovetas, then factories converted them into fishmeal and fish oil. That specialization connected boats, processing plants, and export markets. At its peak in 1970, the industry landed more than 12.5 million tons of fish. Then heavy overfishing met the 1972 El Niño event, and the fishery collapsed in the 1970s. The industry did not disappear. Peru remains the largest fishmeal and fish oil producer, typically accounting for between 1/4 and 1/3 of global trade. Its plants and vessels still support employment and exports. Baldur's Gate 3 won so many awards that Larian Studios used rotating teams to collect them. Ceremonies could not keep pulling the same developers away from production. The game's 6-year production grew Larian considerably before its full Windows release on August 3, 2023. That expansion made award travel a question of staffing, not just attendance. Before launch, Larian released the first act in early access during August 2020. Players supplied feedback while the release generated revenue that supported development. The game's scope also increased during this period. Baldur's Gate 3 became the first title to win Game of the Year at all 5 major video game awards ceremonies. Several publications also selected it as their best title of the year. The result was a staffing system. Award appearances became an operational workload, distributed across rotating teams so development could continue. Instead of letting every ceremony draw from the core production group, Larian distributed appearances across rotating teams to protect ongoing development. Clair Obscur Expedition 33 added an easier story mode after Male's performer said she could not complete the game without one. The unusual request came from inside the cast, not a market forecast. That performer was Jennifer English, who supplied Male's voice and performance. She had taken part in blind auditions before the team cast her in the role. English told the development team she wanted to play the game herself, but at its existing challenge level she could not finish it unless an easy mode was available. The developers responded with Story Mode, a difficulty setting built around less challenging combat. It added an additional choice with less challenging combat, rather than replacing the game's original challenge. English's performance as Male later earned major acting recognition. She won Performer in a Leading Role at the BAFTA Games Awards and Best Performance at the Game Awards in 2025. Windsor-style pizza traces back to Volcano, an Italian diner that changed its crust, shredded its pepperoni, and used canned mushrooms. Founded by cousins Frank Gualtieri and Gino Manza, Volcano opened downtown Windsor in 1957 with room for 60 guests. It began serving Italian food before becoming a pizzeria, though the changeover year is uncertain. Its kitchen likely introduced cornmeal in the crust, shredded pepperoni, and canned mushrooms, choices later associated with Windsor-style pizza. The ingredients solved practical problems in volcanoes' ovens. Canned mushrooms resisted burning, while shredded pepperoni was easier to distribute across a pizza. In the early 1960s, Volcano expanded to four-deck ovens and seating for 400 guests. Volcano also offered delivery using Jeeps and Volkswagen Beetles. The restaurant operated until it was sold in 1986 after business had declined. Its kitchen shortcuts had outlasted the downtown dining room, becoming a regional signature across Windsor. Elizabeth Gunning turned an overlong subplot into a separate 1794 novel and was paid for 2 books instead of 1. The subplot belonged to the packet, Gunning's first novel, where Lord Fitzhenry's story originally appeared alongside the main narrative. Readers encountered the character there before his subplot was developed into its own book. Her contract specified a 4-volume work, but the expanding story threatened to push the packet beyond that limit. Removing it solved the length problem without forcing the contracted novel to become longer. Gunning expanded the subplot into Lord Fitzhenry and sold it separately, turning excess manuscript length into a second publishing deal. That split meant she could be paid for the packet and Lord Fitzhenry as 2 novels, rather than delivering both inside one contract. In 1794, Lord Fitzhenry appeared as a 3-volume London book from Joseph Bell, then as a 2-volume Dublin edition. Reviewers praised Gunning's lively prose and character development. The Houston Rockets sold majority control of their League of Legends esports team for $30 million. This was not a sale of the NBA franchise. The Rockets are Houston's NBA franchise competing in the Western Conference's Southwest Division. During Daryl Morey's tenure, the organization became known for advanced statistical analytics. Those methods influenced player acquisitions and the team's style of play. The ownership structure was the decisive detail. The transaction sold a majority stake, not a sponsorship. Majority control of the esports operation shifted away from the basketball franchise. The $30 million price therefore measured control of the League of Legends team rather than changing the Rockets' NBA identity. The NBA franchise remained intact while the esports business became separately controlled. That separation showed that a traditional sports organization could treat competitive gaming as a separately transferable asset. The Rockets' NBA club did not need to change hands for esports control to change hands. 32,000 children auditioned for 3 lead roles in HBO's Harry Potter series. Only Dominic McLaughlin, Alastair Stout, and Arabella Stanton would become Harry, Ron, and Hermione. The series is planned to span a decade, adapting J.K. Rowling's 7-book fantasy series for television. That made those 3 roles a long-term production decision. In September 2024, the production issued a casting call for children to play Harry Potter, Ron Weasley, and Hermione Granger. The 32,000 figure applies to this trio, not the production's wider cast. In May 2025, HBO announced the selected trio, Dominic McLaughlin as Harry, Alastair Stout as Ron, and Arabella Stanton as Hermione. The announcement fixed the central cast for production. Principal photography began in July 2025 at Larian Studios in Hertfordshire, England. That milestone arrived 2 months after the casting announcement. The search had moved from thousands of auditions to cameras rolling on the new series.